Hello, this is Kris Nelson for EvolveConsciousness.org. I will be reading the article and infographics from Substance versus Appearances. So this is Substance versus Appearance, Authentic versus Inauthentic, Truth versus Falsity. Acceptability of reality. Images and appearances matter for most people in order to have people accept us as we appear to be, not as we actually are. This is how our society functions with PR, public relations, spin doctors, disinformation, and propaganda to have falsity accepted as actuality. These are all images, not substance. These are lies and the sacrifice of truth to present an idol as reality. It's a false image, something visible but without substance. False appearances mask the accurate representation of reality, just as gradualism masks reality. We also have many layers or masks as part of our ego personality identity construct. People are so busy trying to maintain and sustain their ego self-images, sustain their self-images and worldview, that they do not spend time focusing on the substance of who we are choosing to be and how we live. They clean and prop up their appearances, but not the deep quality substance of their being and doing who they are choosing to be. So we focus on the appearance of our delusional self-images and worldview of how we perceive the world is, but we're not looking at how the world actually is or how we actually are and how we're choosing to be. And it falls into the previous one on previous presentation, audio on euphemisms, in that, with regards to, oh, you're not your actions. So it's a denial of who you're choosing to be. You're choosing to be those actions. So you have to recognize that. And people are too busy propping up the appearances in their minds of the worldview and self-images they have, and also they're too busy propping up the appearances they have externally, personally, which is also something I don't really care about. They have their haircuts all the time. They're busy with looking good and the appearances externally, but internally they're corrupted garbage. They're not in truth and morality. They're living falsity. And they have all these pleasantries, and they speak nicely, and they're all nice to you, and they're nice, and they're trying to be friendly, trying to be friends. This is all part of the false self-programming. You think people that project happiness and project a positivity mask, you think that they're authentic beings? No, they're afraid of facing themselves in the mirror. Honestly, truly. You want to look at all the meditators and the swamis and whatever? Oh, they're all nice and peaceful. Yeah, and are they facing the immorality of the animal issue? Oh, let's ring a buzzer. No, they're not. So why is that? Why do they project this appearance of happiness and positivity? Look inside. What are you doing? How come you're not changing your actions? Your actions are a reflection of you. Why are you being ignorant to your actions, the consequences they pose in reality? Oh, I wonder if it has anything with the feel-good delusional self-image you project outwardly from the delusional self-image internally you have. Oh, I'm this way. My worldview is this. Oh, I'm going to induce myself with happiness that comes from within myself based on my delusional self-image and worldview. And then I project that outwards, and then I'm so happy to other people, and I'm so nice, and I'm so kind. Yeah, because you just feel good about yourself and your self-image. That's why you can't face your actions honestly, and that's why you're not working to change your actions. Well, how come you're not working to change your actions? Because you don't really care about what you're doing. You have your delusional self-image and worldview that you project outwardly as your internal manifestation of happiness. It comes from within you, from a delusional understanding of reality. And you project that outwards. That's why you're happy all the time without ever actually improving the way you live and reducing your harm. Are you happy because you're actually living as a good person? Well, you believe you are. Yeah, you believe everything's fine. You don't need to change your actions. So you can just keep projecting that happiness that you created from within inside of you. The happiness came from within, from self-images and worldviews that have been accepted and created in order to make you feel good about yourself. Anyway, the things I see past people's bullshit and all these people who want to pretend they're so spiritual because they meditate, well, shove your meditation up your ass. I don't give a shit about any people who meditate. Meditation has no significance. True meditation is using contemplation and reflection and introspection to discover aspects of yourself in reality. It's not about calming yourself and feeling good, removing stress. Those are beneficial aspects, but that's not what spirituality has to do with. True meditation will bring you to spirituality, which is contemplation about yourself in reality. And that'll bring you towards truth and morality. But just focusing on inner feel-good states, well, enjoy that. Enjoy your meditation and all your bullshit, and never face yourself honestly. Keep murdering animals, keep paying other people to murder it. Keep projecting that false happiness exterior. You're casting a spell on your mind. There's like carnists who cast a spell on their mind to feel good about their immorality. Well, it's the same thing. You got this delusional self-image, a delusional worldview, and you just project that outwards. That's what the feelings they project within you, in your mind, in your subjective reality. You're projecting that subjective reality, inculcated state, outwards onto other people. So just like you can have a delusional self-image about how good you are and tell people how good you are, or project your expectations and desires of reality onto reality, well, that's what you're doing here. Oh, my actions, that doesn't matter. I don't need to change them. Oh, it's not that important. Maybe someday. Oh, I'm still working on it. That's just what I tell people. Meanwhile, please come and meditate so we can continue to immerse ourselves in feel-good distractions and not actually deal with real meditation, true meditation, as the etymology describes it and as the original word was intended to mean. No, no, no. Let's keep wasting our time and attention by going inward in feel-good states. So you have an infographic on the acceptability spectrum. And this is what's acceptable to talk about. So in our society, whatever has more truth is usually what people will talk about the least. It's the rejected reality. It's not acceptable to talk about because it's occult and hidden. That most truth is really deep and profound that people don't talk about because we're all conditioned to be idiots, and we all want to be idiots. And it has little to do with false appearances, which is what most people are enamored with. Their hairstyle, their clothes, all false appearances, the car, the house, other bullshit, you know. So it's not the false appearances, it's mostly the substance of reality in the more truth side. But this is what people don't want to talk about. They don't want to talk about the occult and hidden and the substance of actuality. No. People want to talk about what has less truth, and that's what's most acceptable, is what has the least substance and the most appearance in it, which is the least truth. It's mostly illusions. It's all a facade of images. It has the less truth. And that's what's accepted reality and beliefs. That's the reality we live in, is the facade, the image that's constructed and fed into us, and we buy into that way of living as the reality. So it's whatever's acceptable to talk about. It's the norm of society, the current condition. You can talk about the current condition as long as it's the favorable current condition, as the norm, as it should be. If you talk about the current condition as it actually is in the evil, oh, people don't want to hear that. So it's what people see as valid to talk about. So they see things, the police are good, the military's good, government's good, that's what they'll talk about. And they see a few little corruptions in politics, okay, well, they'll talk about that. But they won't talk about the deeper, more important, substantive truths. No. So it's mainly appearances and illusions and delusions, and not much substance of reality. So that's what I mean by acceptability spectrum. It's what people find as acceptable to talk about. And the other things they don't find acceptable to talk about, well, they don't talk about, and they'll never talk about them, and they'll never find out about them. And that's why people don't understand psychology, because, oh, psychology, that's complicated. I don't want to understand myself. They don't talk about philosophy, because God forbid you'd actually want to understand life. People don't want to do these things. They want to talk about gossip. They want to talk about entertainment. They want to talk about their useless vacations and trips they take in their stupid personal lives, but they don't want to talk about truth and morality. To continue, acceptability works by comparison. We have images of appearances to uphold in society that conform to what is expected. So, example is hair length and facial hair. If you don't look like your gender model and you have hair that other people aren't accustomed to or normalized to, then their acceptability of you as a person may be impacted. So if you look clean cut, you look good, you're shaven, or a woman that has nice hair, nice physical appearances, well then you'll be more accepted to be talked to, versus someone who doesn't look like the normalized acceptability according to the norm. If they're different in ways that are too polarized as compared to the normalized acceptability spectrum, then it's too much on the side of more truth, sorry, not more truth, but on the side of non-conformity to appearances is what I mean to say. So the more you're less conforming to the acceptability and the normalization of society, so the less you conform to what other people look at, the less you conform to what other people talk about, your acceptability within that group or with that person or within society will be impacted. You will have a less degree of acceptability because you do not conform to the normalized standards that other people use as group identifications. So you're dissociating yourself from group identifications through non-conformity to the acceptability and normalization that other people conform to. So it creates a difference, and a lot of people like what's more like them than what's different. So a guy with long hair doesn't shave, and looks like a bum. You could say that about me. Or, anyways, different things. Clothes that doesn't look good. Anyways, there's different identity aspects based on many different aspects of appearances and different groups and social aspects for them. To continue with the article, if your look isn't right, you may not get a job. The same with clothes, a house, a car, etc. It is about people's personality conforming to the social engineering of accepted norms. Some people escape the clutches of false appearances and don't put much weight on the physical appearances of people, but they are mostly oblivious to the appearances of the secondary perceptual reality of illusions and delusions through the science of images. So many people don't focus on the physical appearance, but they're completely ignoring the delusional appearances we have accepted into our secondary conceptual reality. So they accept, okay, the physical appearance is different than mine, blah, blah, in the physical first level reality, but in the second level reality, we all have bullshit of appearances that were sold to us that we bought in because the appearances looked good and they made us feel good. So that's why they're appearances. And we take them in and we make them the substance of our foundational axioms. But it's not real substance because it's an appearance and it's not based in truth and morality. It's an appearance based in falsity and illusion. But that falsity and illusion is taken in as a pseudo substance for our foundation of living in life, the axioms we take as driving forces for our lives. So that's a corrupted foundation, a flawed foundational axiom that needs to be corrected. And that's the problem, is people are not correcting these flawed foundational axioms that are constructed from illusory appearances. When there is more of a contrast to the norms of acceptability by comparison, then it is less acceptable to be discussed. So if you look at the spectrum, what I said, the polarization, if there's too much of a divergence between the poles or between what's possibly to be discussed about, if it has too much of a contrast with things that are already discussed about, that are already in part of the normalization and acceptability, then they're less likely to be discussed and accepted. So that's why when you go towards the blue of the more truth, the higher frequency, there's less likely that it will be accepted to even talk about let alone accepted in society to talk about as a whole. So there's always this truth. There's always this battle, this conflict between truth and falsity, and you can see it in many ways in reality. And this is just another way that I've discovered to represent truth and falsity as I've called it the acceptability spectrum. So it's the normalization and acceptability, and where things, how we live and what we talk about, where that fits in terms of truth and falsity. And the things people accept in normal society are mostly based on the appearances and illusions of falsity. So when you get into the substantive living, authentic living, examined life, which only few of us are getting into, people are so attached to the normalized acceptability and conformity that they don't want to talk about those things because they are out of the norms of the standards of discussion of what's acceptable to talk about, what is normal to talk about. So then you're living that way, you're talking this way, well that's not acceptable, that's not normal, that's not standard. And then they put pressure on you for living in truth because they're living in falsity and they don't want to face how they're living in falsity. To continue, so when there is more of a contrast to the norms of acceptability by comparison, then it is less acceptable to be discussed. Normalization is a false, quote, balance. This is how all injustice is ignored and avoided by society. The current accepted condition is what most people remain attached to and will not let go of, fighting to preserve it no matter how wrong it is, because it's standardized, normalized, and accepted. So you won't fight the evil, you're going to fight to preserve it because you've accepted it as wrong. Just like in the quote in the Matrix, some of these people are so immersed, so hopelessly dependent upon the system that they will fight to protect it. When Morpheus does the little walkthrough through the first little basic simulation with the girl in the red dress, he's telling them how people are so trapped in the falsity that they're so attached to it as part of their way of life, which then becomes part of their worldview, how they see reality and how they see themselves. Their ego, personality, identity construct is based on aspects of falsity, on the illusion. And they perpetuate that illusion, that falsity in the world. They perpetuate the wrong because they view that reality, that worldview, as part of who they are. So they need to perpetuate that current condition because that's how they view themselves, as a reflection of that current condition. So if you were to destroy that current condition, then it would be destroying them. If you were to destroy the lies in that system, then you would be destroying yourself. So if you allow other people to destroy the lies in the system, then you're allowing them to destroy yourself. So that's why you will fight to preserve the system, because it's in essence a fight to preserve yourself. So you end up with people fighting to preserve evil while thinking it's good. So people end up only thinking of themselves because of the attachment they have with themselves and the false illusory reality. So they can't let go of the illusory reality because that would be letting go of the attachment they have to the illusion of themselves and how they view themselves, their self-image and worldview. So as a result, they only think of themselves because they're trying to preserve themselves. They're trying to preserve a false image, a false identity of themselves, but nonetheless, they're only thinking about themselves. In essence, even though it looks like they're trying to preserve society, they're trying to preserve themselves because they are a reflection of the society. So we are a reflection of society, and society is a reflection of us. So if you're going to try to change society, then that means changing you, and that means if you admit that society needs to be changed, then you have to admit that you need to be changed. But people don't even see this level of connection between themselves and society. But ultimately, when they fight to preserve the system, they're fighting to preserve themselves because they identify themselves with the system. So if you can bring people to recognize that who they really are and remove them from their false identifications with their jobs and with social groups and anything that has to do with the artificial constructs we've created, anything in the system that we've made, any identification with any artificial object human has created will prevent you from realizing truth and morality. So, to continue the article, they only think of themselves and the benefits they derive from the sustenance, maintenance, continuation, and perpetuation of their wrong ways, that they tell themselves is right, having little to no compassion or care for other beings outside of their beneficial circle. So again, outside of even the self-image and worldview aspect of attachment, there's the attachment to the feel-good aspect, where you have the comfort and convenience and all the pleasures and everything that you have. You want it to continue, so you don't want it to end. So you don't want to end your own self-image and the worldview and how false they are, but you don't want to end all the toys and the eye candy and all the pleasure that you derive from the system as it currently is. So there's an attachment to yourself that you need to get over. You need to get into objective detachment, to not be so attached to yourself and how you think of yourself. And that's why you have to put truth and morality first, so that you can see yourself honestly. So on top of that, there's also the attachment to pleasure and how we don't want to let go of our pleasure. And we want to remain in comfort and convenience. To continue, related to this is the blind faith and trust people have in the system, in others, and in their conditioned beliefs. Uncritical, unquestioning, undoubting, full of false certainty. But they don't have much faith and trust in truth and morality, because they have rejected it and do not have it in them as fully as they can have it. So they're not embodying it fully, they're rejecting it, and instead they're choosing to have faith and trust in the system and other people, in conditioned beliefs, and have faith in stuff you don't verify. Whatever you do, don't think for yourself and don't actually develop critical thinking and processing capabilities to understand reality. No. Just accept the system because it gives you what you want. It gives you feel good and comfort and distractions. They trust and have faith in man's system, illusions, and devices, the technology, over finding the way towards the substance of living in truth, in true freedom and peace. We live in mass psychosis and delusion. So we trust in technology and we trust in the system of illusions. We're here. That's where we are. We're trusting in the wrong things, not putting our trust into truth and morality in ourselves to develop an understanding of truth and morality and responsibility. No. We're going to trust in other idiots like us, because we're idiots. But we don't think we're idiots, so we don't think other people are idiots. We don't think the system's an idiot. Let's just trust everything. Everything's there it's all good. It's all good. To continue, this ties into the false self of appearances, the maintenance of delusional self-images to preserve attachment to falsity while projecting the opposite illusion as if it was reality. So that's what I talked about earlier too. This is ego attachment. When everyone is into the normalization of acceptability and conforming to the social image, they do not have the substance of honesty, respect, care, truth, and morality that they pretend to have. It is mostly a facade, a pretense, pretending, posing, faking, frauds, liars, hypocrites. You're just lying to yourself, telling yourself that the normalized acceptability and conformity to a social image is honest and it's caring and it's truthful. I'm a good person. So all you need to do is just lie to yourself over and over and it becomes the truth. People lie to themselves the most to uphold their self-images of being good and right. They can't actually become more good, better, to heal and improve themselves by facing their wrongs, because they are far too busy lying to themselves, upholding and defending their delusional self-image they project onto themselves as actually being good and not doing any wrongs. The projections is a defensive capability of the ego personality identity construct that protects them like a shield or bubble. There are many psychological defense mechanisms that insulate people from reality. So again, you can see how the desire to want to believe whatever we want, to believe that we are so good and so right, prevents us from seeing reality because we engage in psychological mechanisms that maintain those delusional self-concepts, self-images, and worldviews. And so we have psychological mechanisms that act like a shield or bubble that insulate us from reality. So on top of other external aspects of insulation from reality and the artificial systems of living we live in that prevent us from facing the consequences of our actions, prevent us from facing truth and morality honestly, we also have them psychologically within us that prevent us from facing truth and morality honestly. So where reality is input, someone says X behavior is immoral. But instead of going and dealing with it, it's bouncing around your processing, because what you have, so this is a circular reasoning deflection bubble of denial. You have a deflection bubble of denial that's deflecting the truth and morality. You're not even processing it. Why? Because you've already accepted into yourself as a foundation, I'm a good person, therefore I don't do immoral things. And since you don't do immoral things, therefore you're a good person. So it's a circular loop, and it prevents you from facing reality because this is your foundation. So you don't even need to reevaluate the information, because as far as you're concerned, it's false. So you just deflect it automatically. So the conclusion, reality is deflected. You don't need to actually look into it. So example, it doesn't matter what you say. I'm a good person. I'm pure-hearted. I live in the heart. I follow my inner voice. I'm connected to God, etc. Therefore, what I do can't be immoral. You are wrong. And that's all belief. I've gone into this in the previous presentation yesterday on perceiving reality. I went a little more into this infographic, so if you want more information, check that one out, and it's time coded for each infographic. You can go and look in the comments, and it has the time for where to go look at it. So this is where you have no truth, you have no care for truth and morality, all subjective excuses, justifications, and validation to sustain and maintain the delusional self-image, not facing truth, reality, or ourselves, honesty, and it's a fear of truth, ignorance of truth, apathy for truth, cowardice of truth, and laziness to live in truth. People think they are entitled to maintain their false images, not allowing people to criticize their work, information presented, their actions or thoughts expressed as writing or speech. I have covered this helpful learning about ourselves in a section of Truth is Love. So I had someone claiming to try to teach me things. So he just commented on Facebook about this image that I had here on the deflection bubble of denial, and he was saying how I'm in denial, how I don't have care, and I'm in denial about how I don't have care, and he was just projecting a bunch of shit onto me about how I don't have care, and that's why I was in denial myself, because I don't have care and I'm too harsh on people. No, clearly they didn't read my Truth is Love article. They don't understand things. They were a New Ager. It was ridiculous. And I just blasted them and deconstructed their bullshit. Anyways, it's ridiculous. So you can criticize my work as long as it makes sense. Logical. Don't just say, oh, well, you're in denial because you're criticizing people and you're mean and you're uncaring. And that means that you're in denial about how you lack care for other people. And so it's like, what? Yeah, you really got a sight up. You're really trying to educate people. That's why I'm doing what I do, because I don't care for truth and morality or other beings. Yeah, that's why I talk about not harming animals, because I really don't care about other beings. Because when I'm harsh to people who are attached to lies and falsity, trying to catalyze them out of their attachment to darkness, yeah, I'm the bad person who's in denial now. Right. To continue, casting aside these delusional self-images of false appearances, the real substance is to become that which is right, good, and true. This is truth, love, good, right, morality, natural law, true self, higher will, etc., as I describe aspects of this force. This is about actualized, realized, authentic living in the substance of truth and morality versus the inauthentic conditioning into the false appearances and idolatry of man's fictions and illusions. Appearances fool and deceive us. Appearances infatuate us. Appearances are the subject of magic and illusions. Sleight of hand, misdirection. Focus your attention in one place to deceive you about something going on somewhere else. This is how society functions. Because dark occultists, priest magicians have been running things for a very long time, and they just have an appearance of how there's no conspiracies, how people aren't breathing together, how they're not aspiring to a common goal, because that's what aspiring is. You're breathing towards something. Wait, I might not have the etymology right. Anyways, if you want to, I'd have to review my spectrum of living thing, but when you aspire, it's related to breath. You're going towards something. You're breathing towards something, I guess. I'd have to verify, but conspire, spirare, aspire, it's with breath. That's what a conspiracy is. You're breathing the same goal. So that's what the appearances are. We have the appearances are that there's no conspiracies, because the appearances are false images inculcated into people's minds in which they believe that that represents reality. So to continue, this ties into language, words, and their definitions that construct our secondary reality of perceptions. More about this in the future. I guess that's in reference to my recent work on language and reality, 5 parts on the trivium method and logic, grammar, rhetoric, and how words occult reality and encrypt reality because they're word magic. And that's on part 3. And there's also the metaphysics, language, and reality, the fundamentals of the trivium method. So if you want more on definitions and how language and words affect us, check out those presentations. Many hours of information. The world is obsessed with appearances and visual affinity into bullshit. There is little to no care for meaning, purpose, depth, and the substance of it all. So the visual affinity is what I'm talking about in the pleasure trap. We have affinity for visual aesthetics. We have affinity for auditory aesthetics. We have affinity for olfactory aesthetics, meaning our nose. We have affinity for palatable aesthetics, meaning our taste. And we have affinity for sensory touch aesthetics. It's all feel-good stuff. Whatever smells good we want, whatever tastes good we want, whatever touches good we want, whatever sounds good we want, whatever looks good we want. So we have an affinity for appearances, which is what deceives us and leads us down the wrong path. That's why the pleasure trap is very important to understand, because you are currently attached to many, 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 many appearances that prevent you from actualizing yourself in the capacity of the substance of truth, morality, natural law, true self, higher will, etc. You can't actualize yourself in that capacity so long as you are attached to all these bullshit appearances that aren't based in substance. To continue, the world is a stage for sorcery, manipulation according to selfish will and ego, the negative form of alchemical magic, influence to align with higher will of natural law. We are presented with misdirections and distractions to keep us from the substance of our self-inflicted suffering. These diversions also keep us from the substance of our true self, higher will, natural law, morality, right, good, truth, love, the higher force that can bring us to actualize and realize our infinite potential and value to create a heaven on earth and not the continued hell we have been manifesting as far as history can show us. History is a battle between good and evil, truth and falsity. So all the distractions, all the misdirections, all the conveniences, the comfort, these are all traps that keep us away from the substance and keep us into self-inflicted suffering, because we don't see the consequences of our actions, because all we see is the affinity for the good. All we want to see is the good. That's all we can see. So It tastes good, it smells good, it sounds good, it looks good, well then it's good. And we don't care. Because all we are is in appearances and the distractions of things that look good, and we don't look at the substance to see if they are actually good or evil, right or wrong, true or false. And so we get sucked into perpetuating suffering and enslavement. Because we're not seeing the consequences. We're not seeing the evil and the negative. All we want to see is the good. All we want to see are the appearances that appear as good. In the magic of modern-day illusionists, or the sorcery of our manipulated, mind-controlled, duped, conned, tricked, fooled, bamboozled, and hoodwinked lives, the goal is to have us looking in one place while things are going on somewhere else. This is the principle behind sleight of hand. Fooling people into accepting an illusory appearance and not the actual substance that reveals reality as it is. Look here at X, not there at Y. It is to distract from looking at what is actually going on in reality, in our lives, in ourselves. People remain inauthentic, unawakened, uninitiated, unbegun, unarisen, unactualized, unrealized, and dead shadows and shells of the true self, of the higher will, because they are not looking to live in reality, but instead encouraged to enjoy their pleasantries, gratifications, amusements, enjoyment, convenience, comfort, feel-good sensations, entertainment, and distractions of the pleasure trap and false appearances of reality. All of that occupies a large portion, if not most, of our time from birth to death. All of our life going along with the motions of conditioned programming from society, doing anything but seeking to know the hidden aspects of reality and ourselves we are encouraged to ignore. And here we have the power differential from occulted knowledge. So we have most people ignorant on the bottom, focusing on appearances, on the illusions. They're unknown. They don't know the hidden occulted knowledge that needs to be known, that they're discouraged from looking at, that they're encouraged to ignore. So they remain confused, perpetuating self-inflicted suffering, self-imposed enslavement, and they're going to remain there forever because they love their appearances. They love their attachment to things that smell good, taste good, look good, sound good, and touch good. And then there's only a few people, the dark occultists and light occultists, people trying to wake other people up, trying to remove evil, and then there's people trying to create evil and perpetuate evil. So these are empowered because they know the hidden occulted knowledge. They're understanding the depth of substance, even if they're not creating in the depth of substance, as the dark occultists are not. They understand it, and they manipulate people through that understanding of what the substance really is. They can create artificial appearances because they understand the real structure. And then the light workers, well, we understand the foundations, and we're trying to teach them to other people so that they can stop living in evil and creating immorality and creating evil. So the hidden occulted knowledge that some know and some don't, that keeps some confused and empowers others, is the minor lower self-knowledge and the major higher self-knowledge. And the minor lower self-knowledge is about the lower self, which mostly is psychology, the functioning and behavior of individual consciousness. That's the lower self here, manifested. And then there's the higher self-knowledge, which has to do with morality, and that's the natural laws governing the consequences of behavior. Because the lower self, as we are here, is an ego personality identity construct, which, with an individual consciousness source that has abilities to manifest behavior in reality and functions in a certain way with certain programs and capabilities to be manipulated to do good or evil, etc. Then we have the higher self, which is the morality that we need to aspire to, what ought to be, what should be, the potential that can become the actual. And this is what's occulted, and this is why people don't go anywhere, because they don't understand how to generate their lives differently. They don't want to face how their lives are corrupted. So it's knowledge to be known, it's integrated into ourselves, and then it's understood, known, and embodied. For the light workers, it's embodied. For the dark workers, they don't embody it. They know it, but they don't live it. Knowledge of the functionality, behavior, motivations, drive, and influence of the mind, psyche, and consciousness empowers one in life. Ignorance of important knowledge is detrimental to survival and well-being. Those who have this knowledge and use it with their dark care have the power to manipulate and control the minds of the confused. The dark care people would be the dark occultists. And this relates to how we can understand reality and how we're not able to change reality and perceiving reality because we're kept in appearances, and only few of us are getting to the understanding of the substance which will allow us to change our reality. And the substance is both knowledge of ourselves as a lower self and knowledge of the higher self of morality. The hidden occulted aspects of reality and ourselves are the key to regaining our power. Gaining occulted knowledge about the real substance of ourselves and losing attachment to the illusory self-images of appearances is how we shift the power differential back into our favor, empowering ourselves. Because empowerment only comes with understanding of truth and morality. Then you can actually live it through the wisdom of right action. That's manifesting power in the world. First you have to be empowered within you. Then you can express that power as a force externally, which is your action in the world. Creating in the world. Manifesting in the world. And that's the wisdom of right action. Otherwise you're in the foolishness of being a fool acting in wrong action. The psychological and, quote, spiritual alchemical process is how we empower ourselves to change and create the heaven we want to live in. I believe in the one from last week, presentation on truth, natural law, heaven and hell, Bible symbolism. I think I got confused on the slide I was quoting from for the key. I don't remember what I said exactly, but I just want to clarify that the key is, as I stated here, it's actually self-knowledge of the two kinds, the lower order and the higher order. The lower self and the higher self. That's the key, is self-knowledge. Self-knowledge is moral knowledge, ultimately. In the higher self capacity, anyways, and that's the key. That's what we need to learn, is morality. You learn more about morality, you'll learn more about yourself. They reciprocate. We can look at it as behavior as the lower and morality as the higher. The behavior is dictated by the higher. The lower is dictated by the higher. Morality dictates the behavior. That's the way it's supposed to be. That's when you're humbled. You're living your behavior humbled under natural moral law, the higher. And when you try to break that, well, you're trying to override morality with your own behavior. The actualized, realized, true self, higher self, authentic being can only be progressively realized in time through self-examination, self-reflection of our falsity, bullshit, wrongs, errors, and incorrectness. This is alchemy. That's why I said morality will lead you to understand yourself, because when you're looking to understand your falsity, bullshit, wrongs, and errors, the self-reflection and self-examination, well, you're only going to be able to face yourself honestly and recognize what it is if you understand morality. Otherwise, you might not really be understanding morality. If you're using your own behavior to understand morality, chances are you might impose your behavior as what is moral. So whatever you do becomes moral. And that's not the way it is. I've written about this in carnism and veganism. Choice does not dictate morality. Survival does not dictate morality. Those are merely choices for survival. But they do not become morality. But some people who are so confused about natural moral law and what moral objectivity is, they think that simply because they need to survive, that whatever action they take, it becomes moral. Or simply because it's a choice they make, that because they are making a choice, that they are somehow God and their choice is what dictates morality. So this is alchemy. It is facing the mirror in full honesty and self-respect, having the courage to own up to the responsibility of our actions and delusional appearances we have bought into and accepted as reality, and we've also perpetuated them. Once we face the reality of ourselves and the world, the beauty and horror, good and bad, positive and negative, light and dark, and accept this current condition as it is in truth, then we can begin to change, heal, grow, evolve, improve, sublimate, transmute, and purify ourselves. We can develop the care, courage, and will to empower ourselves with knowledge and understanding of reality, targeting the root, causal, core foundational factors that have us continually, collectively, co-creating self-inflicted suffering and hell on earth. It's all up to each one of us. So, a purpose in life, seeking infatuation with appearances, or deeper substance of meaning. So you have two main choices. Pleasure trap focus. Seek to fulfill enjoyment, happiness, which is the New Ager I lived with. Polarized focus on myself and those in my bubble of reality that I identify with and care for. Make sure they enjoy life and are happy in whatever they do. That's people who, oh, as long as you're happy, you can do whatever you want. Or are you happy what you do? Blah, 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 blah. And they're talking about their family and people they know. It's people they identify with, so it's the people they care. So they're only caring about the happiness of people in their personal lives or their own personal happiness. And this is Satanism. This is my truth, my freedom, my survival. They're only caring about their happiness. That's their truth and their survival. It's all about enjoying things. As long as they're comfortable, we'll screw the rest. Let the house burn down. Or we can choose the proper path, which is to evolve consciousness. Living in the wisdom of right action, not seeking pleasure trap fulfillment, because pleasure is simply a part of life, not the main focus, but truth and morality as the main focus. It's not the main part of life, pleasure seeking. Pleasure is a part of life, it's just a normal part of life. And we need to replace that desire to seek pleasure and seek happiness and seek comfort and seek to feel good about ourselves, and to replace that with truth and morality as the main focus, as the main capital. And since I've written this article and more people saying capital, capital, everyone's arguing about capitalism and free market, and I'm like, okay, well, time to go into etymology, because it appears that many people have semantic misunderstandings and don't even understand the definitions of words they're using. So I looked into capital, what it means, what capitalism means, and then I wrote an article on how capital to capitalism, it's a false proxy that deceives us. So people want to continue to use this word and don't even understand what it means. What it means is it's the main, most important, chief capital in life. So if you want to put goods and services as what's most important in your life, well, go ahead. Not for me. What's most important in my life is truth and morality. That's my capital. When you are attached to illusions and false appearances, you are grasping onto things that aren't there for people to... You are grasping onto things that aren't there for support and grounding in your life. So you're grounding yourself on illusions and appearances, as I mentioned before, which is a faulty foundational axiom, and you're not going to be living your life rightly. Essentially, you are not grounded in reality, but are floating in delusional fantasy of imaginal spells, controlling your mind, heart, and consciousness. Locked in a prison, thinking you are free. What a joke this all is. A sad joke. And that's what the comedian said in the Watchmen movie. It's all a joke. It's all a fucking joke. God help us all. Because he found out the truth of the scam, of the appearances that people believed. Osmosian, I think that's was his name. They called him Oz. And there's an allegory to the Wizard of Oz too. As the man behind the curtain pulling all the strings, because this guy was projecting appearances, false appearances, as a good guy, but he was actually the demon of the story, doing evil and propagating it as good, which is part of the noble lie, which comes, I think, from Plato. Anyways, Leo Strauss, which was a political philosopher who influenced Ledeen and Wolfowitz and the whole neocon cabal in the 80s and 90s in the States, United States. That was all mind viruses from Strauss and the Noble Lie, and how to do evil and convince people it's good, and what's that one about? The ends justifies the means, so they'll do evil as long as it supports whatever they justify as the good and righteous goal, even though it's not. So it's all a joke. Osmodian. Oz was the man behind the curtain, who was the evil man pretending to be good. So it's all a joke, and he found out about it, and that's why he was killed in the movie. Spoiler alert, anyways, if you haven't seen it. The comedian, it's a joke, it's all a fucking joke, God help us all. Because he saw the truth, and how preposterous the whole system of living. Now this guy, before he found that out, this guy, in terms of the Watchmen, he was the piece of shit in the group. He was a scumbag, motherfucker, scum that deserved to be wiped off the planet. He was an evil man, pretending to be good himself. But his actions were evil, and he didn't make any apologies, really. He was just a piece of shit. But Osmosian, he wanted to do good, but he was using evil and trying to propagate good through evil, and that's the noble lie, and convincing people that it's good, and you're doing evil and pretending it's good. And that's what the joke is. That's what the life of appearances we live in. It's all falsity. It's all illusion. We think we're living in it's good and everything's okay, but it's not. Things are horrible. It's just we have all these appearances. We have all these distractions. We have these comforts and conveniences that prevent us from seeing reality as it is. To continue after the quote, that movie was all about the noble lie to manipulate and control society with the alleged greater good noble lie of necessary evil. It's all manipulation through false appearances. The only hero was Rorschach, a man after my own heart, and as the fate of the hero often is, they get sacrificed and murdered by the delusional people around them who do not care for truth like the hero does. They are sacrificing truth and the hero who defends her. So they murder truth and they murder the hero who defends truth, all because they need to uphold the lie, the noble lie of the necessary evil, of the ends justifies the means. It's a whole world of lies. People are in so fear of being corrected that they run from the true self. We currently unite on base personal commonalities of the appearance of our lower selves, instead of the profound, deep unity from the substance and essence of the higher self, which is truth. If you understand what I mean when I say truth is love, is right, is morality, is natural law, is true self, is higher will, then you can see how all of our personal commonalities and differences pale in comparison to the commonality and differences of our alignment with the higher self of truth and morality. And that's why I mentioned in the euphemisms audio that I just recorded, I think it was that one, yeah, that I don't really care about personal lives of people, because that's not what matters. Those are all the differences and all the different ways and everything. Or maybe it was at the beginning of this article that I'm reading, I don't remember. That all these things in the personal lives don't matter. What matters is truth and morality, and that's the unity we need to unite upon. That's what I care about. That's why I don't really care about your personal life. It doesn't matter to me. There's 7 billion personal lives on this planet. So what? You know? You're just another person. You want me to learn all about your life? Well, what are you doing to learn about truth and morality? Me learning about your life isn't going to help anyone on this planet. But all of us learning about truth and morality will. So it's not about personal commonalities and personal differences. It's about the commonalities and the differences we each have in aligning with truth and morality. That's what matters. That's where the true unity comes from. So as long as you don't want to be on the same moral page of morality, well, then you're not going to ally with anyone truly. And if you try to, you're just going to coerce yourself. So you can go understand that in my presentation of 23 infographics entitled Foundational Living and True Unity. To continue at the end of the article, the differences and commonalities that matter most are moral ones. True unity is based in morality. True freedom is based in morality. True spirituality is based in morality. Those who unite with immoral falsity cannot truly unite with those who unite themselves with moral truth. If you're united with moral truth and someone's united with immoral falsity, well, guess what? You're not creating a life together until they change their ways, until they let go of evil. So related to this at the bottom is the pleasure trap, solipsism, the heaven and hell Bible symbolism, natural law article, truth is love, higher self and lower self. And yeah, I give a thanks to Michael Kovac for idolatry comment, Scott Seaton for authentic and authentic post, which was related. Those two things were related when I was making this. And it adds more definition and correspondence to what I was already developing. So thanks to those guys for their comments and their articles that they posted. And Mark Passio for all the previous foundational understanding that I've been able to further extrapolate and develop upon deeper aspects of understanding reality. Thank you for your time and attention and listening. Have a nice day. Take care. Peace.